Say this is.
Just say Travis Apollo. Don't say your last name.
Oh, why?
Because I don't. Consistency.
Okay. Let's try that again. But don't say this is. Do you say this is?
I say I'm.
You said this is.
Did I?
That's why I said this is.
Okay.
I'm nervous now.
I am too. I always am.
You look great.
Hi friends, this is Tasha Rose. Crap, I did it again.
And I'm Travis Apollo.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Tasha Rose, and I'm Travis Apollo, and this is Radical Mothering, right?
Right.
Like, that's a totally normal...
I'm Tasha Rose.
I'm Travis Apollo.
And this is Radical Mothering. And we're doing a pretty late video tonight, and it's pretty impromptu, but the spirit moved, and so we're doing it. And I'm going to start by reading what today's gospel reading was, and today's Monday the 17th of June. And the gospel reading was from Matthew 5:38 through 42, and it was, Jesus said to his disciples, "You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, offer no resistance to one who is evil. When someone strikes you on your right cheek, turn the other one to him as well. If anyone wants to go to law with you over your tunic, hand him your cloak as well. Should anyone press you into service for 1 mile, go with him for 2 miles. Give to one who asks of you, and do not turn your backs on one who wants to borrow." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise you, Lord Jesus Christ.
And there you go.
Gabriel initially interjected before we moved on to the reflection in the readings after, that something about a tooth for a tooth, and he said, well, what does that mean? And I told Grace to go back and read it again and kind of go over it in detail. Tooth for a tooth, what does that mean? And Gabriel didn't understand what that meant, so she clarified a little bit what it meant. So Jesus said, don't retaliate. And don't, if someone hits you, don't hit them back. But then I questioned, well, what does Jesus say to do instead? And Grace's initial response was, do you remember exactly what she said?
She said, give in?
She said, give in. Jesus said, give in. And our initial reaction was immediately,
right, no.
No, that's not what he's saying.
I was actually really aghast. Like, she said that. I couldn't believe. And it was funny, too, because we were analyzing a video that we had watched the other day using IB literary techniques. It was The Handmaid's Tale, in fact, we were watching. And she's like, why are the wives wearing green? And then we analyzed it together, and she's like, green is the color of envy. And these women are envious because they can't get pregnant. And so we were really working on analyzing details of the story. And so I was really kind of floored when she wasn't analytical about this at all. And she's really great at it. She's really good at it. So work in progress. Yeah.
So we said, no, that's not what he's saying. Read what it is that's written there. What does it say that he said? And so she went back and read it again, and she read the details about, I think the first thing she said was, she read that last sentence again that said something about, if someone, it closed with something to the extent of, if someone should want something of you, then give it to him.
Right.
Or something, which is...
I think that's why she extrapolated what she did.
Right, but, yeah. I mean, that's not necessarily the real meat of it. The real meat of it is... is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do not turn your back on someone who wants to borrow. Which, I suppose that's a little bit of a progression, maybe a simplistic view of the progression of kind of what he's talking about, but really the meat is really that first piece. You can really dig into it. If offer no resistance to one who is evil. When someone strikes you on your right cheek, turn the other one to him as well. And I know that there's actually this weird little additional connotation there that I think you've talked about in a video before.
No, I haven't talked about it in a video. I've talked about it during our family devotional time. So that passage, it's talking about this is an equalizer. So when someone is harming you, you're equalizing because of laws about washing your hands in context of the scripture. Laws about washing your hands, the strike across the cheek would have to be at the second strike would have to be a bare-handed strike coming back on the other cheek. So it would be an equalizer because they wouldn't do that. Like they wouldn't use that open hand for hitting because they then use their hands for eating and other things that they need cleanliness for. So it's really an equalizer. And then Travis progressed with that concept of equalizing by saying, you know, you want to hit me? Okay, hit me. And it's kind of like,
right.
It's like confronting it. Like, you're going to hit me? This is ridiculous.
Right.
If you feel like you need to be ridiculous and hit me, then do it.
Right. Like, good luck. Like, what's the point? Because the point is, really the context of all of this is Jesus is speaking to his disciples, right, who are good people. And they're acting in good faith, and they're doing their side of the street is clean, and that's the point. He's speaking to those of us who are acting in good faith and cleaned on our side of the street and have not done wrong and harm to others. And so people who are doing evil to us point it out. Look, you want to hit me, but that's not going to solve whatever problem you think that you have. Because I can't fix it for you. I don't know when all you want to do is hit. So it's about forcing the issue, and then the other part about it. If someone wants to take you to law over your tunic, I don't exactly know why that phraseology is used in context. But if somebody wants your shirt, give them your cloak too. Somebody wants to take you to law, take you to court over a tunic. Fine, take the shirt, take my cloak too. I don't know what your problem is, but listen, it's not. It's bigger than a shirt or a cloak, and I don't need your mess. Just take it and go figure it out. Now, if you want to actually have a conversation, if you actually want to, try to figure out what your problem is and resolve it and make it better, then let's do that. And that's really what he's talking about. So it's not at all about giving in. It's about confronting and digging in to the real heart of the matter. Right. And that is what Jesus is about. And there's so many places in Scripture too. This is a great one, but there's so many other places where Jesus can be easily interpreted to be to be just sort of a passive guy who's just trying to avoid any kind of confrontation. But he was aggressively confrontational.
Right. I think about that passage. Actually, Father Moriarty gave the homily this weekend?
Yeah.
He talked about the miracles that Jesus did and how he never did any miracles for himself, though it's sometimes disputed about when he walked through the crowd and saved himself from being thrown off a cliff. I don't see that as him performing a miracle for himself. I see that as the same concept, like, do it.
Right, like
if you're
what Father Moriarty said,
it
was more likely that it was just a challenge.
Yeah, it was. It was absolutely a challenge.
You want to throw me off a cliff? Good luck. I'm walking out of here.
Right.
And it wasn't a miracle. It was just
nobody had any good reason.
Yeah. Well, and it wasn't his time, obviously, in the biblical sense either. So it wasn't a miracle in that sense either. It was just, that was it. But I think that's definitely indicative of who he was, and everybody misunderstands that he was just this, peace-loving hippie guy, right? But no, he was, and it took a lot of work to be that, and that's what we as Christians are called to be Christ-like and to stand up to those injustices in that way, and to people acting in evil ways, and to challenge it. I mean, that's what we're called to do, and it's not easy, and that's why we're so moved to kind of go through all of this, because it goes on this context of our horrible incident from this evening.
Right before we had our readings, in fact. So it was really when the readings happened. It was like, we got to talk about this.
Yeah. So do you want to kind of get into the
So
story.
I was making dinner, and Grace came in and said that Travis was outside talking to a guy who was driving down the street. She said that he was behind her and following a little close, but she didn't feel unsafe. And I'm like, well, that's unsafe. But she said that she was concerned because you were out there, and she didn't think it was any big deal. But again, teenager not thinking a bigger picture here. So I go out there with my phone just to make sure that everything is on the okay. And I hear sort of raised voice, but not overwhelmingly raised. There was some agitation. That's what I'm looking for. There was agitation in voices between Travis and this man. And I started recording, just, safety's sake, whatnot. And they were having a conversation about the man following too closely and then turning around at the end of the block and speeding down the block. And this block has lots of children. And Travis went out there to talk to him about that. And what I was overhearing and what I caught on video was that they were coming to a resolve. They were coming to an understanding between each other as men. And I was just there to bear witness. And that was it. And then this woman who was involved with this man, I guess, we don't even know. Like, we don't know who they are. They don't live in this neighborhood. Started shooting her mouth off at us and at him. And then she said something about us driving a basketball van, and then said something about she used some expletives and said doing weirdo polygamist stuff. And I got really mad. I got really mad because you think about that, and what she's really saying is that our adult-looking grown daughters, like, she's calling into question their virtue and their chastity with regard to him, their father, and that set my ire off so quickly, and I stepped off of the curb to be next to Travis rather than behind him. And I said, "Excuse me?" And I was flabbergasted that this woman would have said something so horrible. And then she got instantly violent. She started swearing. They had to hold her back. She took her earrings off, and I'm just standing there like recording, not armed, not showing any aggression. I stepped off of the curb to stand next to my husband.
I hadn't moved from where I was in my initial conversation with the man.
Right in front of our own vehicle.
He had backed away by this point. He was sitting over in his truck now. And,
he walked away. The man walked away and got in his truck. And then the woman, she's saying all sorts of horrible things. And then she rears up. She took her earrings off. And she rears up to spit at me. And I told her, "Do it." I looked her right in the face and I told her to do it.
Right. Just like Jesus.
Well, don't call me Jesus. Like, they don't
like Jesus. Christ-like.
We're supposed to be Christ-like. I understand. But I'm not going to back down from that kind of aggression. You want to aggress me? Aggress me. I'm not going to back down. Right. And so I said, do it. She didn't do it. She instead went to her car and grabbed a taser about this big.
I didn't even see it.
It was huge. It was like a club. And she started crackling this taser at us. And I'm like, call the police. Yeah. This woman wants to violently accost us after saying horrible things about our family that she doesn't know.
Doesn't know us from anybody.
Right. And then, to make matters worse, the entire neighborhood is out at this point. And the one next... Right. There are people... We don't have good relationships with our neighbors. We're very conservative people in a big liberal bubble.
Right.
And everybody knows it. And we don't walk on eggshells about it either. We're not unkind people, right, but we're not untruthful people either.
Well, and we also, I think it's fair to say that we're not out actively trying to make friends with everybody around us.
We're not.
We've got a family to take care of, and we've got a lot of responsibilities, and it's a lot of work. And
there have been efforts made in the past, and it's been
a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, just to test the waters, but it's been all rejected. So we just stopped.
Sort of, maybe. I mean, I think it's a little bit mixed. And I would say it's really hard to necessarily point really clearly. But what I would say is that basically at the end of the day, it's just, I don't think that we're all, like, on the same page. I don't think that we are like good friend material with any of our neighbors, and that's fine.
Yeah,
like,
we're okay with that. We're okay with that. Nobody else is.
I don't know. Apparently not. We don't have to be. It's just fine. And the kids can play up and down the block. It's not supposed to be a big deal. That's actually turning out to be not even as reasonable either.
So one of the neighbors is walking across the street to talk to these people, and she's running her mouth off about us. Right. And then a woman down the end of the block is mocking him and shooting her mouth off down there. And it's like,
that was after the cops had ended up finally coming.
She had started actually prior to the cops showing up.
Oh, she was over there?
Yeah, she was over there. I heard her yelling. I almost yelled back at her.
Oh.
And I didn't. I prayed and I stopped myself. She was
like standing down at the other end of the block yelling at all this other yelling that was happening?
Yep, she was.
What in the world?
I know. It's completely bananas. So the police were called. The police showed up. We gave our statements. Our daughter gave her statement. They all gave their statements. And it just dissolved. And this woman, like the dispatcher, I'm on the phone with the dispatcher, and she's telling me, you and your husband just need to go back into your house. And this woman's yelling at us. Oh, yes, walk away. You don't like being filmed. You don't like being filmed.
She had started recording us. I'm like, we're not hiding anything, and that wasn't even the point. And so, but I guess...
And then they started threatening us, threatening our children. Like, she was issuing threats about... And I have to go back to the video to hear them. They might be on your video, not mine, because I cut mine off to call 911.
Right.
And so she was threatening something about all 7 of your children, and I'm just like...
Well, she said go back to your house with all 7 of your children. Who's watching your kids? I don't think that was meant to be a threat. It could be perceived as a threat.
There were other things that said though too. I will have to go back to watch the video.
But there was like you done messed up and you'd better get back in there now, or something like to that extent. I think was what the woman who lives over there said. And so it wasn't that they were like completely misplaced in this neighborhood. They were visiting somebody that lives across the street. And that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with somebody driving erratically in front of our house and driving close to our daughter. I mean, it was clear. No, their truck's loud. That's fine. I told him. I told him and I told the woman, both, who were saying, why do you have a problem with the loud truck? I said, I don't have a problem with a loud truck. I have a problem with the erratic driving or the fast acceleration. You should have heard the
car that he had before we moved into this house.
I've had a loud car before.
It was crazy loud, and I was so embarrassed about that car.
It was crazy. So whatever. I understand it. Our Volvo's a little bit loud right now. I should probably do something about the muffler. It's not really loud. It's barely noticeable, but you can tell. Oh, that's the Volvo pulling up out front instead of just some other car. Anyways. It's not the point about it being a loud car, but it's the point about how he very quickly accelerated after Grace parked, and he had been riding close to her, but she didn't feel unsafe, and that's fine. It's not necessarily about that, but he clearly went quickly down to the end of the block and made a U-turn and came and parked.
And we're in the middle of the block. It's not very far.
Well, right, but I mean, it was
quick.
It was super quick. He sped down and he sped back, and I had a concern about how quickly he moved back and forth. And I told him too when I was talking to him. It was a reasonable little conversation. I told him, look, if there's no problem, then there's no problem. But I just wanted to keep track of who's coming and going and what's going on over here. There was some erratic driving that caught my attention. So I came out here to take a picture of the vehicle so that I could document it and keep track of what's going on. And that's all.
Which we have a right to do as homeowners and taxpayers on this street.
People seem to think that it's somehow not okay to, take photos or surveil things, which there's absolutely no rule against anything that's visible out in public being captured. I'm not publishing anything. I'm not out there selling anybody's information or anything like that. I don't care. I don't even know how anybody would do anything like that. So I'm sure some people have figured out ways. But it was just I told him, I'm just keeping track of, what's going on over here. If everything's fine, everything's fine. I don't have a problem.
And conveniently,
it's just about taking care of my family. That's
this guy ended up driving away before the police even showed up.
Well, sure, and that's suspicious.
Right, that's suspicious.
Maybe it's unfair to be suspicious about it. He probably should have stayed. At this point,
I don't care. Yeah, he probably should have.
A person should have stayed when, so there was an interaction happening. He should have stayed to tell the cop what was going on. This is what's going on.
Right.
I don't know why he didn't. Maybe he had somewhere to be, but he had just gotten there, so if he had somewhere to be, I don't know what he was doing there. Right?
Right.
It's suspicious, but people have all sorts of reasons. Right. And I have a right to be suspicious. I'm not accusing anybody of anything except, threatening us with a taser because that was what happened.
And it was insane, you guys. It was insane. I keep replaying it over in my head, and I'm like, who does that? Who escalates first wanting to spit at somebody, which is disgusting, and assault, and I would have called police on her for that. If you wouldn't, I don't care. I would have. And then go, oh, well, I know, I'm going to go get my taser and threaten to tase people.
Right.
Because they stepped off a curb because I said something completely preposterous, perverted, and filthy to them about their family.
To offend them. I mean, that was the purpose, right? I mean, I
offended them, and now I'm going to harm them physically.
Right.
And I want to say, it's not that she said something about us, because we don't care.
Right.
It's that they involved our children. Just like everybody else that we have been having neighbor issues with on this block, they involve children. Right. They're passive aggressive. It's unbelievable to me. I really can't find words to express how completely unbelievable and unconscionable some of this behavior on this block has been.
Right.
So, the evening was progressing, and I was getting really just emotional because I love our home. I love our home. I love being outside in our garden and building this bee and butterfly haven in our front yard, and this Waldorfy playscape in the backyard that's kind of taken a backseat this summer. Another video. I love all of that. What I don't love now is that we moved to this neighborhood so that our children would have lots of friends to play with, so that they could play reasonably on our sidewalks, but now they're told they're not allowed at the other end of the block, the public block, mind you. They're not allowed at the other end of the block, and they're not allowed to play with other children, and, I get screamed at for being in my front yard and allowing my children to play outside, and, get told that I'm not watching my children when I'm right out there with them, and get made the bad guy because I'm being mindful of other children in the neighborhood who actually are in harm's way. I mean, it's really crazy. And so I was really very sad tonight because I was thinking, I don't know how much longer we can do this here. And I love our home. Our home is my dream. I love this home. I love this home that you have worked and given to our family. And I don't think I tell you that enough, how appreciative I am for the gift of the home you've given us. And so I went on Zillow. If you follow me on Facebook, I'm always on old house streams, and I'm like looking at old houses in other states that are humongous houses for super cheap, and they're gorgeous, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we totally need to move here. There's a butler pantry and, all this kind of crazy things that I would love. But I love our home. And I went on Zillow and I looked up our home price, and I looked around at neighboring cities to the Twin Cities, and I was like, we would never find a home like our home anywhere else. And I was really sad, and I'm like feeling desperation, like we're in, like I said in the beginning of the video, we're conservative in this very liberal bubble. We don't take delight in lying. We don't take delight in doing wrong things. We don't take delight in being bad people. And it seems that that's what's actually expected of us. That we should be delighting in those things. And that we should just be going with the tide, like everybody else in this neighborhood. And that we should just be okay with other people doing wrong things. And it's not. It's not okay.
Right.
And then you said something earlier, and I can't remember exactly how you phrased it, but it was, we know this is hard. We know this is going to be hard. And we know this is supposed to be hard. We were told this is going to be hard.
Right.
And
being people who live values with conviction is not easy. It's not supposed to be easy. That's what virtue is about, and it's difficult, and it takes work. And I don't claim to be 100% right, but
right.
There's something to be said for, things. There's a reason that things are easy, and there's a reason that things are hard. Mm-hmm. Hard things are hard because they're worthwhile to do.
Right.
And otherwise, they wouldn't be things if they weren't worthwhile. And, a lot of times the harder something is, the more worthwhile it is. And just, looking at it in the lens of what do we care about? What do we value? What do we teach our children about what's important? And are we living up to those standards? And if we are, well, it's probably difficult. And it's also difficult for our children. And we know that, but we still hold them to tough standards, and we have to hold ourselves to tough standards. And unfortunately, it's challenging, but that's what we get to live with.
I want to speak a little bit to the spiritual warfare behind this all too, because I went into one of the Catholic wives groups, and I lamented in the group, and I was like, all of this that's happened, and it's not just this, it's when he started his RCIA classes, there were some things that happened, and I was like, I said out loud, I'm like, this is spiritual warfare. And you were still at the point where you're like, nah, but it really was. You had some dreams that made you feel uncomfortable. Right. And then he had his identity stolen via credit cards.
Yeah, that happened. Wow, you're keeping track.
I am keeping track.
I can't remember all those things. I just remember there were things. I'm
keeping track because St. Benedict has a list right now that he's working on for us. There were a few things like that. And then at Easter Vigil, you and 5 of our children were all claimed for the Lord. And since then, it's even increased. So we had our garage broken into. Like, I see all of these things as part and parcel to that. Our garage is broken into. I just got a letter last week that my identity was stolen. My social security number was stolen for somebody to gain employment. And of course, they don't give you any details about who it was and what job or anything like that, which I totally understand. He was funny. He's like, well, did they get the job?
I wonder if she's got a job now and she'd be expecting a paycheck sometime. That'd be funny.
And then, the little comments, there's a woman who picks up at the daycare who has been obsessing about me for the past year. And every time she sees me outside, she makes little comments, or she makes comments loud enough for my kids to hear, or she plays the song True Colors, which I don't quite think she understands what that song is even about. But she plays this song on full bore in her vehicle, or she sings it loudly and atrociously whenever she sees me. And I'm like, I'm occupying that space in her brain, and it's bordering on psychotic and harassment.
Well, and talking to our 13-year-old daughter, tell your mom not to park here, and then whatever else she said too. Yeah. It was insane. Like, who does that? Yeah.
Yeah, so there have been just a number of things like that have been happening, that it really speaks to the spiritual warfare that we had just interpersonal relationship issues with people before, Now it's like knockdown, drag out. And we're just over here like, oh, well, we're going to homeschool and we're going to go to church and we're going to go on our camping trips and we're going to do our own thing. And then like things blow up and it's crazy and we legitimately don't understand how this is even happening.
Right.
So that's why I place this under that umbrella of spiritual warfare, because it really is, because we are living our vocation and we're living our vocation loudly. We're not being aggressive to anybody. We don't talk to any of these people ever.
No,
and the effort has been made in the past.
I'm just really lukewarm to tepid about, any interactions with, other people around. Like I'm just not interested. It's not worth my time.
We've been building our social circle around.
Right. And I've got a right to decide whether or not
33 minutes is the recording time. Or 35 minutes or something like that.
Oh, okay.
So I guess the gist of the whole thing is reflecting on the readings, it's, there's a way to say things in love, but saying things in love and being, I'm trying to work this out here. You don't have to be nice to be kind or to be loving.
Right.
I'm not interested in being nice. I mean, it's just not. And anybody who's known me long enough, who watches this channel and follows me on Facebook and knows me in real life, they know that. Like, I've never had any interest in being nice. I am not a nice person. Now, I know that I am a kind person. I know that I am a compassionate person. And I know that I'm a loving and giving person. Mm-hmm. But don't ever try to associate me with being nice, because that will never happen.
Right. And I would say that I'm not necessarily, like, I don't go out of my way to be friendly to people. But I would say that I'm kind. Mm-hmm. But I would say most importantly, even if I'm not like trying to be outgoingly friendly to everybody that I see, just because, first of all, I don't think that they necessarily care enough. They shouldn't care enough about whether or not I'm going on my way to be friendly to them. But also, what's more important is, am I being respectful? Am I being respectful, or am I being disrespectful? And I'm not disrespectful. No. And not being outwardly friendly to everybody that I see for no good reason is not disrespectful. It's just, it's nothing really, but it's not disrespectful. And I am respectful of people around me. Right. Very considerate and caring in that regard. Mm-hmm. And that's something, and I'm a reasonable person. And if anybody has, like, that's something too. I mean, I've never had anybody come over and talk to me about, any concerns about me, about our family, about anything that's happening. Mm-hmm. Nobody's come and talked to you about any concerns, but
they just formulate their narrative and they run with it.
People have all sorts of, ridiculous concerns or assumptions about things that they have no idea about and don't
So we're polygamous racists doing weird things over here.
Care to know about.
So that you're in the know now.
And not watching our
children.
Who, we know everything about. Liliana joked the other day, you don't know anything about... Well, she didn't joke. She was trying to, backtalk me. She said, You don't know anything about my life. I said, Liliana, I know everything about your life. Everything about your life. You have two parents
who are home with you every day.
5 years old, and I know everything about your life. You've got no secrets, and it's just silly little girl stuff. But but I know that that's true. Right. I know that I know everything that goes on with our children, and that's okay. That's good. That's wonderful, and people seem to think that that's not the case for some reason. It's insane.
Right. Which really just speaks to their own insecurities, and so I think that's what the takeaway here is. So from the readings, don't back down when people are aggressing you. You don't have to be a jerk about it, but you also shouldn't back down. You can hold your own, and you can issue that dare of walking through the crowd. just like Jesus did. And it all starts with knowing who you are and knowing who you are in the Lord too, because that's what's going to challenge you the most. It's like a Darvo thing, that the redirect and attack thing that people do to make you the villain when really you're not. And I'll have to look up. I can't remember what Darvo. I'll put it on the screen or something. What Darvo means. I'm really tired. It's really late. It's like close to midnight now.
Right.
So
yeah, I'm tired. Well, yeah, I think that is really, and I mean, you said it really clear. It's about their insecurities, and that's what Jesus was pointing out. It's look, confront them about it, because it's not about a shirt. They're not hitting you because they've got a problem with you.
Right.
They're hitting you because they've got a problem in themselves.
Yeah.
And that's that wisdom that Jesus was so good about having, because he was divine, but also because he was a very wise man, because he was both, right? Let's not talk too much about it. We don't want to end up in heresy, but that was what Jesus had, and so just hold that conviction, even though it's difficult.
And we have to remember too that we're supposed to be in the world but not of the world. So if we don't get along with these people, there's a really good reason for that.
Right.
Yeah. And so you pray for them. I went to confession this once a few weeks ago after an altercation with the one neighbor. I went to confession and I prayed for her, and now I'm just like, meh. I'm indifferent towards her. I just really don't care. It's our children, and that's what bothers me the most.
Over there mocking my hand gestures while I was giving my report to the police. Like, who does that?
Right.
She was like looking at me, making eye contact with me, moving her hands and her lips in the same way I was, like, 5 houses down the street. Like, what kind of insanity is that? She just thinks this is some kind of a La La Land soap opera or something.
Oh, no, totally.
That she's watching, like,
totally.
For
Queen
crying
Bee of
out
the
loud.
Midway.
I don't get it.
Yep.
It's insanity. It is legitimate. Well, I mean, I'm not a doctor, right? But, like, it's what I would perceive as complete psychosis. Mm-hmm. That someone could do that and talk to children about in the ways that they do about other people. I just, who does that?
Right.
That's not normal behavior.
Right, because that's the world. That's the world. And we were made for better than that. And they were too. And that's really the saddest part about it all. As they were made for better than that too. But they would rather not, for whatever reason. And I mean, we were sort of in that space too, so it's not, and I don't know why. Like, I legitimately don't, it feels like fog, and I still haven't done my reversion video yet, but it feels like fog almost, because I feel like I can look back on my time away from the church and before you were converted objectively, and because of the things that we saw and were involved in and whatnot, I feel like I've got a really good stepped away objective perspective on it all, but it still feels all really foggy. Like, how did that even happen? Like, how did my intellect, first of all, fail me to think that this was somehow legitimate and God wasn't? So that's the first thing I kick myself about, is like, how did my intellect fail me? And so that's where the fog comes in. It's like, I just don't even know how it happened. And so I know that they are in the same place that we used to be, and it's horrible and it's sad, and I feel sad for them. And that's all. So I guess I don't really feel indifference for them. I feel sadness for them. I feel indifference regarding how they feel about me.
Right. Yeah, because that doesn't, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how they feel about us. It makes no difference.
Right.
So we have nothing to say to them about it.
Right. Because if God is with us, who can be against us? Really.
Right.
I think we can wrap it here. I don't know how much of this video I'll edit because it was very good conversation.
I think you should edit like over half of it.
Oh, I probably will edit quite a bit of it, but you guys should just get used to the fact that when Travis and I have a video together, it's going to be a longer one.
She's been begging me for years to record conversations that we're having about all sorts of controversial topics. Really, it would have been actually pretty amazing to catalog all those different conversations that we had leading up to eventual conversion into the Catholic faith and realizing what we understand to be the truth about our values and where they lie in relation to the rest of the world and things that matter. But they would often be very long, drawn out conversations.
Yeah, we've had conversations that went days. They were days long. We just bounce around the whole thing.
Yeah, pretty interesting stuff.
So yeah, you can really basically bank that most videos of me and Travis together are going to be, on the longer end. So if you like that kind of thing, let us know.
If you think we should keep it shorter, let us know. Because she can edit like the dickens, I tell you what.
I can. That last one, you guys wouldn't believe how much I edited out of that.
You wouldn't, because it's still ridiculously long.
It's still really long. But I did. I edited quite a bit out.
Yeah, good job.
But give us a thumbs up and subscribe and
let us know, your thoughts, because it helps.
And this is a heavier video, and we get that. But this is this is real life, This is the tenor of the channel at this point, is just our real life as a revert and a convert, and how this is all playing out. It's really tough.
Yeah, it is. It is. But there's good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. And we'll have another video later this week. He and I.
Apparently.
Together. All right.
We hope so.
Thumbs up if you're new here, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.